Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Baladeva, Jaya Subhadra, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitya Gaura Hari Bol, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय,
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 ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्वा नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। सुन्वतां स्वकथा कृष्णा पुण्यश्रावणा कीर्तनः, हृदयन्तो तो हि अभद्राणि विधुनति श्रुतताम्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतं सेवया, भगवती उत्तमा श्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी। Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to Saturday morning Bhagavatam class. So actually I was not the speaker for today, but just yesterday only I got a request to speak today as well. So I know some of might disappointed because I appeared today. So before I start, I would like to take blessing of all the Vaishnavas present.
Prabhu, we are used to seeing you only. Don't worry.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So let me share my screen. So as you all know, Saturday we discuss any verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. So because when we are discussing every day, we are now we are on the 15th chapter, and while reading that verse, I got a reference from this verse. So then I thought, okay, let me discuss this verse today. Please repeat after me. Aham hare tava padaikamula,
अहं हरे तव
Kamula.
दाशानुदास भवितात्मी भूयः,
दाशानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः
मनः स्मरते सुपातेर्गुणांस्ते,
मनस्मरत्याशुपतेर्गुणांस्ते
गृहीता वा कर्म करोति कायः,
Grinita va karma karotu kaya.
अहं हरे तव पादैकमूला,
अहं
Aham
हरे तव
hare tava
पदैकमूला
padaikamula.
दाशानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः,
दाशानुदासो
Dasanudaso bhavitasmi
भवितास्मि
bhuyaha.
भूयः
मनः स्मरेत सुपातेर्गुणांस्ते,
Manasmaretashu patergunamste.
गुणांस्ते
गृहीता वा कर्म करोतु कायः,
गृणीता वा कर्म करोतु कायः
अहं हरे तव पादैकमूला
अहं
अहं हरे तव
पादैकमूला
पादैकमूला
दाशानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयः
दासानुदासो
दाशानुदासो
भवितास्मि
भवितास्मि
भूयः
भूयः
मनः स्मरेता सुपातेर्गुणांस्ते
मनः
मनस्मरेताशु पतेर्गुणांस्ते
स्मरेताशुपतेर्गुणांस्ते
गृहीता कर्म करोतु कायः
गृणीता वा
गृहीत्वा कर्म
कर्म करोतु कायः
कायः
You would like to recite?
अहं हरे तव पादैकमूला
अहं हरे तव पदैकमूला
दासो भवितास्मि भूयः
दाशानुदासो भवितास्मि भूयया
मनस्मरेताशु पतेर्गुणांस्ते
मनः स्मरेताशुपतेर्गुणांस्ते
गृणीता वा कर्म करोतु कायः
गृहीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायः
अहं हरे तव पादैकमूला
अहं हरे तव पदैकमूला
दाशानुदाशो भवितास्मि भूयः
दाशानुदाशो भवितास्मि भूयया
मनः स्मरेत्ताशु पतेर्गुणांस्ते
मनः स्मरेताशुपतेर्गुणांस्ते
गृणीतवा कर्म करोतु कायः
गृहीत्वा कर्म करोतु कायया
Okay, anyone would like to recite? Okay, let's read the synonyms. Aham, I.
Aham, I.
Hare, O my Lord.
Hare,
Hare,
O my
O my
Lord,
Lord,
Taba, of your lordship.
Tava,
Tava
of
of
your
your
lordship.
lordship,
Padaekamula, whose only shelter is the lotus feet.
Pada
Pada
Ek,
Ekamula, whose only
whose
shelter
only
is the
shelter
lotus feet.
is the lotus feet.
Dasanudasaha, the servant of your servant.
Dashanu,
Dasanu
Dashanudasha,
the
the
servant of your
servant of your
servant.
servant.
Habitasmi, shall I become.
Abhita
Vavitashmi
Asmi
shall
shall
I
I
become.
become.
Bhuyaha, again.
Bhuyaha,
Bhuyaya
Bhuyaha,
again.
again.
Manaha, my mind.
Manaha, my
my
mind.
mind.
and
Marata, may remember.
Smareta, may
Smareta, may
remember.
remember.
Asupatehe, of the Lord of my life.
Ashupati,
Ashupate of the Lord of my
Lord
life.
of my life.
Gunan, the attributes.
Gunan,
Gunan, the attributes.
Te, of your lordship.
Te
Of your lordship.
Rinita, may chant.
Rinita,
Pranita,
may
may
chant.
chant.
Bak, my words.
Walk
Vak,
my
My
words.
words.
Karma, activities of service to you.
Karma,
Karma,
activities of
activities
service
of
to you.
service to you.
Karotu, make perform.
Karotu,
Karotu, may perform.
Kayaha, my body.
Kaya,
Kayaha,
My
my
body.
body.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servant, whose mind, who finds shelter only at your lotus feet. O Lord of my life, may I again become their servant so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes. My words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in loving service of your lordship. Purport. This verse gives the sum and substance of devotional life. One must first become a servant of the Lord, Dasanudasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, and he also showed by his own example, that a living entity should always desire to be a servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna, the maintainer of the gopis. Gopi Brutaha Padak Kamalayor Dasanudasaha. This means that one must accept a spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession and is a servant of the Lord. Under his direction, one must then engage one's properties, namely his body, mind, and words. The body should be engaged in physical activities under the order of the master. The mind should think of Krishna incessantly, and one's word should be engaged in preaching the glories of the Lord. If one thus engaged in the loving service of the Lord, one's life is successful. Om Ajnanatamirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Desatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Once again, welcome everyone for Saturday morning Bhagavad Katha, and thank you for giving me association. So I picked up this verse from 6th canto, 11th chapter, 24th verse. The 6th canto, the title of the 6th canto is Prescribed Duties for Mankind. So actually, entire Srimad Bhagavatam talks about 10 subject matter. So this is what confirmed by Suta Goswami in the second chapter. Second chapter, 10th, 10th second canto, 10th verse, basically, 10th chapter. He says, Atho sargo visargascha stanam posanam uttayaha manvantare sanukatha nirodho muktir asrayaha. So these are the 10 subject matter our Srimad Bhagavatam deals with. So what are those 10 subject matter? First is sargo. Sargo means it talks about creation of this universe. Visargo means sub-creations. Creation, then sub-creations. Third is sthanam. Sthanam means this planetary systems. Then fourth is poshanam. Poshanam is protection from the Supreme Lord, protection of the Supreme Lord. Then it comes to uttayaha. So what is that means? The creative impetus. Then manvantara. Then the changes of manus and everything. Then talks about isa anukathaha, the signs of the God. Then that is basically 10th canto. Then nirudaha, it's like a liberation, going back to Godhead. Then muktihi, that is niruddha means going back to God, and mukti means liberation. So this 10 subject matter it talks about. And ideally speaking, this all subject matter starts from 3rd canto, 3rd to 12th canto, so entire 12 cantos, right? So then question may comes, right? But we know that Srimad Bhagavatam has 12 cantos, and Suta Goswami is Sukadev Goswami is saying that Bhagavatam talks about 10 subject matter. Yeah. So what is that means? And also many acharyas and claims that Srimad Bhagavatam is only 10 canto only, not that 12 canto, because first 2 canto it is about Sonaka Rusi, sages of Naimisharanya, and introduction of Suta Goswami. Suta Goswami talks in the entire 2nd canto. Sukadev Goswami talks about this subject matter. So actually, the speaking of Sukadev Goswami starts from 3rd canto. That's why our Srimad Bhagavatam consists from 3rd canto to 12th canto. But Jiva Goswami, who is one of the prominent acharya in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, he condemns this statement that Srimad Bhagavatam only consists of 10th canto, not the 12th canto. Jiva Goswami says that, no doubt, the Srimad Bhagavatam consists of 10 subject matter, but it's not that every canto represents one subject matter. He doesn't agree on that. He says that, in fact, every canto consists of this 10 subject matter. So in that state, so by saying that, he's saying that even 10th canto, first canto consists of all of this 10 subject matter. Second canto consists of all this 10 subject matter. That means entire Srimad Bhagavatam, every canto consists of this 10 subject matters. That's why we should consider all the 12 cantos are entire Srimad Bhagavatam, not that Srimad Bhagavatam starts from third canto. So this is what just the small introduction I would like to give of Srimad Bhagavatam. And now I picked up the 6th canto. So if you go with that, Sukadev Goswami chronological order, he's saying that 3rd canto talks about the creation, 4th canto talks about the plan, sub-creation, and 5th canto talks about the planetary system, entire planetary system, and 6th canto talks about Poshanam. Poshanam means the protection of the Supreme Lord to the devotees. So entire 6th canto deals with this subject matter, basically. I mean, not only this, but as for Jiva Goswami, it consists of all the, the subject matter, but preliminary on the Poshanam, subject matter on how Supreme Lord protects his devotees. So if you see that 6th canto starts with the pastimes of Ajamil. Basically, the 6th canto talks about how the devotees of the Lord fall down and Lord Krishna rescue them and and protect them. That's what is entire 6th canto talks about, of different pastimes. So it starts with the Ajamil pastimes. We know how Ajamil was a great Brahmana and he falls down, but Lord Vishnu, Vishnudutta came and gave him a second chance so that he can live rest of his life in the devotional service and finally go back to the Godhead. Then after that, next few chapter comes up, Prajapati Daksha. How the Prajapati Daksha, the 1,000 sons, were completely attached with the material allurement and performing different materialistic activity, and with the instruction of Narada Muni, they all become elevated and they renounce their life. Then when 6th canto progress, it comes that, okay, how Indra, the Lord of the heaven, the Indra, offended his spiritual master Brihaspati, and because of he falls down, and how Lord Vishnu protected him, Indra, from the attack of the various demons. So during this topic, the subject matter, the 6th, 11th chapter come, which we are going to discuss today. So what is about this, the verse which we discussed, Aham hare tava padaika mula dashanudhas bhavitasmi bhuyaya manas smarataishu patre gunamste grinite vak karma karoti vakaya. So this verse is saying, someone is praying, okay? Someone is praying to the Lord. Oh my Lord, I will introduce who is that great personality is praying. Oh my Lord, oh Supreme Personality of Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servant who find shelter only at your lotus feet? So this personality is requesting the Lord, praying the Lord, hey Lord, will I be able to become a servant of the servant? Means again, he's saying that, will I again be able to be servant? That means this particular personality was a devotee of the Lord in the previous life, you know. And again, he's asking, requesting in this life, he appeared with some different personality, and he's asking for the Lord, please give your mercy, you know, so that I'll become again the servant of your servant, you know, of your pure devotee. Oh Lord, my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind always think about your transcendental attributes. Yeah? My words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your lordship. It's talking about bhaka, kaya, mana, bhaka, kaya, means our mind, body, and our words, everything should be engaged in the service of the Lord. And he's asking for benediction from the Lord, Supreme Lord Krishna, opportunity to serve the dasanudas, means he wants to become a servant of the servant of the servant of the the devotee of the Lord. So that, because why he wants to become servant and servant, because those servants are serving the pure devotee, and that devotee is serving to the pure devotee. That's why, so that when we come to the bottom part of this servitor ladder, right? That means we will get mercy of the devotee. Yesterday, that's what so we're discussing, right? The topic we're discussing, like how should we become surrender to the devotees of the Lord. And Krishna, in that verse, when Arjuna, we were discussing the first chapter, 15th canto, where Arjuna is glorifying about the Lord, and he said that how the Khandava forest was fired, and how the Maya Danava surrendered to Krishna, Arjuna, and he asked for protection to asked for arts protection from Arjuna, because the fire Agni Deva and the Sudarshan Chakra was attacking Maya Danava. So to rescue from them, he surrendered to Arjuna, because he realized that Arjuna is a very great devotee of the Lord, definitely, and he is a very powerful Kshatriya. He can protect him. And when Krishna saw that, someone has surrendered to his pure devotee, then he stopped his Sudarshan Chakra, and also he asked Agni Deva to stop chasing him. And in the end of this purport, Prabhupada says that one should serve the devotee of the Lord. By when someone is serving the devotee of the Lord, he will get the mercy. He will mercy from the Lord. And what kind of mercy he will get? He will get a mercy in such a way that he will perform more service toward the devotees of the Lord. So it is a cyclic chain. So that's why during that discussion, we come to this, like Dasanudas here. So who is that personality is praying? So this pastime is about the demon Britasura. Britasura is praying to Lord Vishnu. So I would like to go to the flashback quickly. So we have a 30 minutes. I know this is a huge chapters. There are four chapter talks about this pastimes of Britasura, and each chapter has 50s, more than 50 verses. And it's very interesting to read. But for the sake of time, I will just give quick pastimes of Britasura. So what happens, right? Indra, is the king of the heaven. He was so attached with the opulence. He was bewildered with opulence. Once, when Brihaspati, his spiritual master, appeared in the assembly, Indra did not pay obeisances to him. So Indra completely neglected the Brihaspati. By seeing this gesture, Brihaspati was completely become angry. So he said that how come he could treat me when I'm present here. So that's why what he did, Brihaspati left that assembly. He left. He was the main priest in the Indra's kingdom. So he completely left. Uh, so what happens then? And he also, because of that offense, what happens? All the demigods and even Indra lost their power. Because Brihaspati left and he offended. He was offended by Indra, and because of that, what happens? Mm, Even the demigods lost their positions, lost their power. Indra lost their power, and at that time, what are different many demons continuously attacked this demigods, trying to win trying to win this entire heaven, and they completely defeated all the demigods, because demigod they couldn't fight with with these demons, and they lost their position, their power, even they lost their kingdoms also. By seeing that, what happens? um, then then what happened? This Indra approached Brahma. So the approach, then Brahma, what happens? Then Brahma asked him to bring Viswarupa, the son of the Brahmana Tveshta, become their priest in the absence of Brihaspati. Okay, so then Vishwarupa was a three-headed person, Vishwarupa, who with one hand he used to, with one mouth he used to eat somarasha. One mouth he used to eat drink wine liquor, and other mouth he used to eat what do you call the different kinds of food. So then they approached Viswarupa. Viswarupa was a great priest, and with the so Viswarupa with the what happened? Viswarupa taught the Narayana Kavacha mantra to King Indra. Narayana Kavacha is a powerful mantra, and with that mantra, and also Viswarupa performed yajnas. And with that Narayana Kavacha and Viswarupa performed the powerful yajnas. Because of that, the Indra and demigods, they regained their power and they regained their kingdom back. They also were able to fight the demigods, and they regained all their position and power and everything. So Viswarupa, we know that Viswarupa's father is Tveshta, and Tveshta is connected with so if you trace back their lineage, we find that the mother Diti and Aditi, they are also connected with the Asuras. So somehow the Viswarupa is also favorable for the demons. So whenever he performs this yajna, he used to offer the oblation to the demigods because of their security, and also secretly he used to give the oblation to the demons also. One day Indra saw that and came to know that Viswarupa, who is the priest in the Indra's kingdom, and he is offering oblation from the yajna to the demons. By seeing, because demons are a very strong enemy of Indra, by seeing that, Indra got angry, and he attacked the Viswarupa, and he chopped the three head of the Viswarupa. So Viswarupa died, and by seeing this, the Viswarupa father Tveshta, he also become so angry. So what he did, he is also powerful saint, and sage, and he actually, the Narayana Kavacha is taught, Tveshta taught Narayana Kavacha to Viswarupa, and Viswarupa in turn taught to Indra, but the real originator, or the power is of all the different kind of mantra, everything possessed by Tveshta. So Tveshta performed the yajna so that he will beget a son, who can attack the Indra and who can kill the Indra, because Indra killed his son Viswarupa. So while chanting the yajna, what happens? Instead of he chanted the various mantra, but he chanted it wrongly. He did not chant properly and correctly, and because of that, very furious and a powerful personality, a demon, Britasura, appeared in the from this yajna. So the Britasura was so furious, and he attacked all the kingdom, heavenly kingdom, and all the demigods were scared about his look. He's a very giant personality, Britasura. So by seeing that, the demigods become so scared, and they couldn't resist they couldn't tolerate the power of the Britasura. And even Indra felt that okay, this Britasura, he cannot survive in front of this Britasura. Britasura has having the grudge of his brother, Viswarupa, Indra killed him. So he wants to take the revenge. He wants to attack Indra. Now what happens? Now what can they do? What these demigods headed by Indra can do? So obviously, what happens? We have seen entire history. Whenever the demigods have any problems, what they do? Can anyone would like to say what they usually do when the demigod have any problems in their life?
Go to Vishnu.
Yes. So they go to the Vishnu, right? So that's why the demigod Indra, headed by demigod, approached Vishnu. They prayed, "Hey Lord, and there are beautiful prayers also there, and all these things." So they approached Vishnu. Okay, now the Britasura is a very powerful demon who is planning to kill Indra and who is planning to attack. How can we survive? And he also attacked many times. Then Vishnu, what he did, he suggested thing. First of all, Vishnu gave so many philosophical statements there, right? So many verses are there, because how Indra was becoming, using his material opulences, and he has done the offense also to Brihaspati and all this thing. It talks about a devotee should not be supposed to be, approach me for the material benefit. Anyone who approach for the spiritual benefit, he is the best devotee. All kind of answer Vishnu gave to Indra, and finally he said that, okay, now what you can do, he said, you can approach a very saintly person. His name is Dadachi. He's a saintly sage. Approach him, Dadachi, and ask him, request him to give his bone from his body, so that he have to leave his body and give the bone, and from the bone the great Vishwakarma can create a Vajra, a thunderbolt. With the thunderbolt, you can attack, you can conquer the Britasura, you can kill the Britasura. Otherwise, you cannot kill the Britasura. So it's up to you how you will convince Dadati. That you are up to you. You can go and. So now, by taking this instruction from Vishnu, Indra approached the sage Dadachi. Actually, again, even the Dadati is the main. He is the inventor of that Narayana Kavach. He is the very strong, very powerful sage. So when Indra approached Dadachi, then he says that, how come I give my life? You want me to give my life? How come I? That means I have to leave my body. Then, but he said, Indra said that, we approached Vishnu. It is the Vishnu only, Lord Vishnu only ordered me. So then because Lord Vishnu, even Dadaji is a great devotee of the Lord, they're all great sages. They said, okay, if it is the word, Vishnu is suggested that, so how can I deny this Vishnu's word? Okay, by and then what he did, he's a very powerful sage. He concentrated his body, mind. First, he take out his soul, and with this powerful his dedication, or his what do you call spiritual strength, he go back to the spiritual world, and his body he left here, and the bone came out of the bone. That bone, Indra, the Vishwakarma made that powerful Vajra, the thunderbolt, so that he got that weapon. From that weapon, he can attack Vritasura. Now, what happens now? There's the next chapter, in the chapter 11, where it's of the sixth canto. It's about the fight, the fight between demigods and Vritasura. Vritasura has also a powerful army. So with that army, he attacked. Hmm. Um, there is a battle between demigods and Vritasura, powerful, and the demigods are also regained their power, right? Regained their power after when this Viswarupa performed all the yajnas, and they are also powerful. And Indra also has powerful weapon, like a thunderbolt. Along with that, Indra himself has a many powerful weapons, right? With that weapon, a very powerful war, very war between demigods and the Vritasura, and along with his armies happened. And Vritasura is constantly attacking. He is the one-man army. He's such a powerful that he himself can, defeat all the demigods, right? Still, he has his army, Ashura, the demons' army. But the demigods are also so powerful that they're constantly attacking these demons. And by seeing this attack, when what happened, that the demons are like powerfully, throwing the mountains, the trees. It's like a torrent of rain, like how it comes, right? Like that, they're throwing the weapons and attacking everything. And the demigods easily, they can, nullify those weapons. After seeing this situation, the demons army lost their confidence. They said that, okay, I don't think so we can fight with the demigods headed by Indra now. It's better to save our life. Let's leave this battlefield and run away. That is the quality of that is the nature of a demons, right? Demons always, they do not what do you call, if it's a Kshatriya, then Kshatriya always wants to be fight. That is their karma. If the Kshatriya die in the battlefield, that is his glory, rather than sowing back and running away from the battle. Because these demons are not Kshatriyas, right? They are fighting. They are demons. They decided that, okay, let's run away from this battle. And all these armies running away from here and there and there. And by seeing that, Vritasura started giving the philosophy. Now we may understand, like, and at the end, now he starts giving the philosophy, and he talks about all this thing and the prayers. Now we may think that Vritasura is a demon. Vritasura is demon. How come he got this concept of philosophy? He's talking about philosophy, and I will come to the verse, what philosophy he speaks. And then Parikshit Maharaj asked, after then entire this weapon, then war, everything happened, and Indra attacked Vritasura and killed. Then now Parikshit Maharaj wanted to know, who is this Vritasura? How come he is such? And today's verse also we are discussing. Remember, I started with this verse saying that he's praying the Lord to please make me again become a servant of the servant of the servant. That means he has some pastime. Because of him, he is able to stop this all spiritual talk. Doesn't even know who is this Britasura in his pastime.
Chitraketu Prabhu.
Yes. So he is the king, Chitraketu, right? So we know that past times when Chitraketu was not having any son, he by the mercy he got one son from one wife, and other wife did not get a son. That's why the other wife poisoned the son and killed that small baby. Then Chitraketu was into lamentation. So all this story. So here, so when this war happened, right, when all the Ashura demons escaped, he's saying that what kind of warriors you are, a person who you are the coward, and you so you are back and escaping, fight like a bira, that is not a nature of the fighters and all these things. And finally, but still what he did, as I mentioned, he himself can fight with all the demons, right? I mean, all the demigods. So he himself fought, and he was himself is fighting in such a strongly. Even demigods were bewildered. What can he do? He himself alone is fighting such a powerful. And what happened? Indra attacked with his powerful club, and hit a hit. When he threw, then Britasura hold it, and in return, with a very force, he hit back to the towards Indra, and it hit the Indra's elephant Airabata, and it hit in such a strongly that Airabata fell down, and Airabata started bleeding. After seeing that, and before that, what happened when these demons were running away, and the demigods taking this opportunity, they're killing everyone. And then he started giving the philosophy to all the demigods. Hey, what kind of demigods you are? What kind of you do not have a code of conduct in the war. When you are fighting, you are seeing that someone is running away with the they get afraid and they're running away, they're leaving the battlefield, and as a code of conduct, as a true warrior, one should not attack a person when someone is not holding any weapon, or someone is leaving the battlefield. One should not attack, but in the backside. You are all attacking, you should stop that. You same of one of you demigods. That's what he chastised them. And now, when Indra, elephants, Airabata fell down, then, Britasura stopped attacking anymore. He could have attacked and killed Indra, but he did not do that, because he was a pure devotee, and even now also he is a pure devotee of the Lord, because we know how he connected in the past time. So he did not attack. He stopped there. And when he stopped, then Indra was lamenting because his elephant Airavata was bleeding. Then with his hand he got some kind of very powerful rasa, and with that he put all the rasa, and now the elephant felt better and they both stood up. Then by seeing this movement, Britasura was become little compassion towards what am I going to kill this person. Then he said that, then the philosophical exchange started. Hey king, you go and start. You have, why are you throwing all these weapons, club and all that? You got a thunderbolt from the Lord Vishnu's right. Attack that thunderbolt and kill me. Otherwise, that's where when you kill me, that way I can go back to my spiritual world. Then he talks about all that 10 to 15 verses. He surrendered to the Lord. He said that how the Lord Vishnu, he is the pure devotee of the Lord, and he has done all the because of his sinful act. Because we know that how Chitraketu got cursed from Parvati, and because of that he become the demon, and he all remembers everything. Please kill me. You are the pure devotee of the Lord. If I kill from you, then I will go back to the Godhead and become elevated, and again I will become the opportunity to serve the Lord. Like that he speaks, and that's where this verse comes. The verse which we are discussing now. He's praying, so he from 11:24 to 27 is a very beautiful prayers that's called Britasura prayers. And we started with the discussion with the 24th verse, which is that he's praying, you know um, he's praying Lord Krishna, that please make me the servant of the servant of the servant, so that I will get again, I want to be your servant and want to serve you, my Lord. So this verse says 24, it's saying that, oh my Lord, oh Supreme Personality Godhead, will I again be able to be a servant of your eternal servant who finds shelter only at your lotus feet? Oh Lord, my life, may I again become their servant, so that my mind may always think of your transcendental attributes. My words always glorify those attributes, and my body always engage in the loving service of your Lordship. So he wants to become the servant of the servant of the servant. So he's saying that Britasura is praying to the Lord, please make me your servant of the servant, so that I will be eternally serve you. And then the war happens, and then finally, even when after seeing these prayers and these wars, Indra becomes compassionate towards Britasura. When he understands he is such a devotee of the Lord, how can I kill him? I can't kill him. Then all the demigods asked him, requested him, no, you should have to kill, and all these things. Then by their sentence, then finally he attacked and killed Britasura, and Britasura liberated. So that is the story, and there. So now we want to understand this verse little. I would take a few more time to understand this verse. What Prabhupada is saying in this verse. Becoming a dasanu means we want to become the servant of the servant of the servant. So Prabhupada is saying this verse gives the sum and substance of the devotional life. One must first become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. So dashanu das. So that is the only way we can get. So yesterday also we are discussing this subject, right? Where we are talking that we are all we are all caught in the material world, and when we are in the material world, we are tend to commit so many sinful reaction. Not only in this life, we have gone through many other lives, and in every life we have committed so many sinful activities, and because of that we are getting that reaction, and again we have taken the birth as a human form in this material world, and entire life, entire our journey, we have been performing so many sinful activities. So how can we get rid of sinful activities? The only way is the devotional service. Only way. That is the only option we have to come out of these clutches of Maya and become the and come to the our eternal position, that is a servant of the Lord. But before we becoming the pure devotee of the Lord, we have to get some kind of mercy from someone, so that this process of bhakti will sprout in our heart. Bhakti lata bees. So as while we're discussing, the bhakti lata bees will come from the pure devotee of the Lord only, because Krishna is very reluctant to give that mercy, and that's what we discussed yesterday, the true reason we discussed. And so that we need to approach the devotee, we need to become a servant, we have to become the dash of the dash of the dash of the devotee of the Lord. If you become that, if you have that attitude in your mind, then what happened? The Satama Kripa will flow into our heart. Satama Kripa, that because of the Kripa, that mercy of the devotee, what happened? The Bhakti Lata bees will sprout in our heart, because of that bhakti lata means our devotional life will start. So that is what it says, that the bhakti can be developed, I with the 5S. This is the theory. I remember the 5S. So what are the 5S? This is the formula you remember. 5S. The first S is sadhana. Sadhana, when you perform the devotional, the regulative practice, sadhana bhakti. That is what the it can be. We can reach to the bhakti stage. Second S is sangha, sadhu sangha. Obviously, our own endeavor, with our own endeavor, we cannot reach our destination. Definitely, we need a sadhu sangha, association of the devotee, sadhu sangha. That is the second S. Third S is swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means scriptural study of the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. That is the third S, swadhyaya. Fourth S is sadachara, means we need to develop the behavior, and with our dealings, our behavior and our dealings should be brahmanical quality. It's not that we should not come envious, all this greed, envious, we should not come out. Sadachara is the dealings and behavior should be changed. That is the 4S. And last but not least is S is seva. Unless until we perform the seva, the service to the devotees or the Krishna, we cannot become the dasanu. If we don't develop the servitor attitude, there is no way of getting this bhakti. So we all should remember this 5S in our life. We remember so many A's and so many B's and so many C's. Now we have to make a practice of remembering this 5S. If you remember this 5S and implement in our life, definitely we will become free from this material world and go back to the spiritual world, which is our constitutional position, and we will get the eternal the happiness which we are hankering from, and finally we will get that eternal happiness. So I would like to stop here. Thank you everyone for listening me, and if you have any question and comment, please go ahead. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhuji, in this verse it talks about dasanudas, but I see becoming dasanudas, at least for me, it becomes really difficult when I'm giving some service, direct service to the deities. I feel good, but if I'm given some service to serve somebody, I feel I do not feel very good. I would rather choose to serve directly the deities, or if there are very great devotees. But this verse it actually talks about dasanudas. So, like, how to develop that tendency, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, that is very very right question, right? Because first of all, why we need to understand why we do not like to serve others. The problem is that our our heart, actually we are pure, right? But due to the contact of this material world, not from since time immemorial, we always want to lord it over, right? We always want to become a boss. That's what that is the natural. That is the nature of all the living entity. They do not want to be a servant, but they want to be boss. Because why? Again, if you go to more detail technically, the boss nature is coming because we are the living soul is the marginal energy, right? Tathastha Sakti, and rest all everything Prakriti and everything is the external energy, Bahiranga Sakti. So Tathastha Sakti always greater than the Bahiranga Sakti, superior than Bahiranga Sakti, and because of the superiority nature, by default the bossing nature is inbuilt in ourselves. But when we understand the concept or philosophy, then we understand that not above this, there is a Antaranga Sakti is there, which is the Supreme Lord Krishna's energy. From that energy only this Bahiranga and Tathastha Sakti is coming, all is coming from there. So instead of lording over it, that instead of we become the serve, we develop the service attitude, and we become the master. Instead of become the master, you become the servant. That is the way we can develop our the real constitutional position. So when we truly develop this and understand this concept, and when we understand, that's why when we that's what I said, that when we implement this 5S in our life, then only we will come to the conclusion that okay, and even Krishna says in the many scripture, like yesterday also we discussed, right, Prabhupada, instead of serving me direct, if you serve my devotee, I will be 10 times more happier or more pleased if you serving directly to me. And we have seen the many example, right? Example of Ambarish Maharaj and who is that? Durvasa Muni, right? How Durvasa Muni, trying to kill Ambarish Maharaj, and he chased, but the Krishna, to save his devotee, he released his Sudarshan Chakra. Now Ambarish Maharaj was running all the planetary system to save his life. Then finally he said that, hey Lord, please save me. Then he said, no, if you ask me, I cannot do that. Go and you offended my devotee, go and ask forgive for him. That means if Krishna in front of his devotee, he's not, and he cannot do anything. If the devotees are, he always wants to please the devotee, always. And also we know the another example in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Kaunteya pratijanehi yome bhaktana praishchati. Means Krishna says, go, hey Arjuna, go and declare that my devotees never perishes. Why he is saying to tell Arjuna? He could have tell himself, because he know that his own word he can break sometimes. We have seen the example of how he broke his bow in the Mahabharata. He attacked Bhisma. So that's why he's not sure about his own word. But if devotee says something, he's 2000% he is guaranteed that he will make sure that works. So by seeing all this example, Krishna is saying that my devotees are always top, so just do the service. You develop the attitude to become a servant of my servant, or go and serve my devotees, obey their instruction. When you do that, I will be so much pleased. So this all, so how can we develop that? So again, I'll go back to the 5S, Mataji. So when we develop our strong sadhana, because that is the starting point, right? Because we are attached with this material world since time immemorial, in the life, many lives. So we need to develop the sadhana. We need to change our living style. We have to change our attitude. So only that comes with the sadhana. And the second S is the sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha means we have to come across the sadhus, acharyas, devotees. Then third is to read the scripture, what we are doing every day. Then seva, all this thing comes. The first three is important. When you do the first three, the second two S is automatically developed, like sadachara and say servitory. That's why I gave the S last S. The seva is the last S, because unless until we develop this first fourth, the fifth S won't come. The fifth S comes at the end. So that's true. Like you are saying, that it's very difficult to develop that attitude to serve someone, because we have not, the first four S are there, then finally S, the seva S comes. So that is what we need to do. First develop the 4S, then eventually what happened, when fifth S comes, definitely it will come in our heart. Then we find pleasure in the serving all the devotees, and then we find more pleasure then becoming dasanu, then serving directly to devotee, because we are getting the bliss when you serve the deities directly, but we do not have an experience of becoming dasanu. But when you get that experience, then we realize that bliss is more, this bliss, that becoming the dasanu bliss is more blisser than what the bliss we get from directly service to the Lord. That's what I would like to say, Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Even Guru Ashtakam, it says, Yasya prasadat, Bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadat, Nagati kutopi. Should serve the devotee of the Lord. Krishna becomes pleased.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. And that's what every day our battle in our life starts at the morning 4:30 by Mangalarti, right? This is a great battle we do. We have I was listening one of the devotees. So he's saying that he described in our life we have to do three battles. What is the first battle is battle between flesh and spirit, the body and the spirit. What is that battle? The body wants something, but our soul wants something. So every moment we have to go through this battle. And the battle starts in the what happened. We want to eat something. Always our mind attract to eat something. Bacho begam, manaso krodha begam, right? That verse goes. But we need to control. That is our battle between flesh and spirit. Second battle goes like appearance and what is the reality. Sometimes what happened, this is common across all of us, although when we come into the Krishna consciousness, we want to become a devotee. Sometimes we tend to sow like becoming a devotee, like we want to chant Hare Krishna or doing the service, thank you, or outer world, outer side we become a devotee, but inside the reality we are not. We actually not trying to become a devotee. So appearing saintly versus being saintly. That is what. Being saintly is important. Then appearing saintly. So this is another battle. And third battle is this is also every day we have to go. My glories versus Krishna's glory. When we do the service or anything, all the glories come to ours. Although no matter how big devotee we are, whenever some name fame comes, everything comes to us. Okay, I have that. Instead of giving credit to Krishna. So this is another battle we always go through that. So we need to conquer all the three battles in our life. Only when that is possible. Again, coming back to the 5S. The more we develop the 5S, the more we conquer this fight in our life.
Unconquerable battle, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhu, can you tell me the 5S again?
5S, Mataji. It is first is sadhana. Second S is sadhu sangha. Third S is swadhyaya, reading of the scripture. Fourth S is sadachara, developing, changing our behavior and attitude. And last S is seva, service.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I think, Prabhuji, the biggest challenge is that you talked about. That the second is actually being a devotee rather than showing off.
This is a biggest devotee, Mataji. Every moment we have to fight against it, right? So to fighting this, we need weapons, right? And this we have a 5. That's why this 5S are 5 weapons with us. If you don't acquire these weapons, it's very difficult to fight this battle. Not only single battle, we have 3 battles we have to fight. And very difficult battles are there. So that's why we all every day should engage to collecting this 5S, 5 weapons basically. If you do that, Haribol, we can clear this battle. Thank you, everyone.
And also Jayananda Prabhu, he served Prabhupada, and today we should glorify him because of the Rath Yatra. He served menially, Srila Prabhupada, who is a pure devotee of Lord.
Would you like to speak?
Prabhu, what is it?
Would you like to speak about Jayananda? A few words?
So he was a simple devotee, Prabhu. He didn't know much, but he saw that Srila Prabhupada has pure intentions. He was serving, Prabhupada would cook for him and distribute prasadam, and he saw his intention was pure. So he dedicated his whole life to Srila Prabhupada. he would not speak ill of others, and whenever somebody spoke, criticized another devotee, he won't be in the same, Jayananda Prabhu. And then he was a cab driver, and then he would drive his car and then give up his fruit results of his work to Srila Prabhupada. He first donated $5,000 to Srila Prabhupada for printing books, and then he would do menial services. He'll collect all the trash. He would be the last person to go to sleep, and he'll make sure the temple is always clean. He'll wash the dishes and then make sure everything is ready for next day Mangala Aarti. And he would even wake up early for Mangala Aarti and then make sure everything is all set up and ready. So he was always working. And when somebody asked him, uh, what should one do to progress in Krishna consciousness or something, he said that, oh, I'm too busy to even think about that, because he's always working and thinking of Krishna, that he doesn't even have an answer to that, because he's totally surrendered to Krishna and is always working menially for Krishna's service. And then you see that he attained the glorious, destination. Sure. And Prabhupada gave him, after he passed away, he said every Rath Yatra cart, because he helped build the Rath Yatra cart tirelessly, and he worked towards that. He said that every Rath Yatra should have a picture of Jayananda in the front, so we should glorify him. He's considered one of the saints in ISKCON. He was a great devotee. And then you see that even after he passed away, his mother would receive a blessing indirectly, because a devotee would come and chant for his mother, who was not even a devotee. So that shows that Krishna never forgets his devotees. He always helps them, and he preserves what they have and carries what they lack. Jayananda Prabhu ki jai.
And this also, the topic, like we are discussing Dasanu, Dasanu, Das, so Jayananda Prabhu truly represent this mood, right?
Yeah, that's right, Prabhu. That's why I brought it up. Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. Jai. Thank you, Mataji. All right, thanks everyone. So let's offer our Vaishnava pranam to all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpa
कल्पतरुश्च कृपा सिन्धुएव च
पतितानां
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय, श्रील
जय
प्रभुपाद की जय, ग्रंथराज
जय
भागवतम की जय,
जय रसराज प्रभु जी की जय।
विष्णु श्रील प्रभुपाद।
हरे कृष्ण।
कृष्णा।